found out my husband's best friend was secretly watching my daughter, and what I discovered next shocked me to my core. I had just dropped my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, at her new school and returned home to get ready for work. Everything seemed normal, too normal in fact. My husband, Daniel, had left early for a meeting with his best friend, Mark, and I thought nothing of it. But later that afternoon, I received a text from an unknown number: "You should check on Lily before it's too late." I froze. My heart pounded as I tried to make sense of it. Who could know about Lily? And why would anyone send me such a message? I immediately called Daniel, but he was in a conference and said he'd get back to me. Panic rising, I rushed to the school to check if Lily was safe. When I arrived, she was waiting at the gate, cheerful as ever, oblivious to the terror running through me. Still, the message haunted me. I decided to check the security footage from the school office, hoping to find some clue about who sent the threatening text. As I scrolled through the footage from the morning, my blood ran cold. There was a man near the school's perimeter, lurking, seemingly watching Lily closely. The face was partially obscured, but something about his stance and familiarity made my stomach twist. It was Mark, Daniel's best friend. Questions raced through my mind. Why would Mark be watching Lily? Was it innocent? Or was there something more sinister? I left the school immediately, my hands shaking, and drove back home to search for any evidence in our own house. That's when I noticed it, a small camera hidden behind a family photo in the living room, angled perfectly toward Lily's bedroom window. My mind reeled. This wasn't just a random warning, it was targeted, calculated, and horrifying. I confronted Daniel as soon as he returned from his meeting. His face went pale and he stuttered, I don't know what you mean. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. I knew he had to have some idea, some knowledge of Mark's behavior. I demanded he call Mark immediately. But his excuses kept piling up, vague and hollow. My trust in him faltered with every word he spoke. I realized painfully that if I didn't act now, Lily could be in real danger. I decided to go to the police. As I recounted everything, the text, the footage, the hidden camera, the officer's expression darkened. "This isn't a prank," he said. "This is serious. We'll need to bring Mark in for questioning immediately." Relief mixed with fear surged through me. At least authorities were taking it seriously. But I knew the next few hours would reveal truths I was not ready to face. By the time the officers arrived, Mark was sitting in the living room, pretending nothing was wrong. But the moment he saw the police, the calm mask cracked. His eyes darted, searching, calculating. I stayed close to Lily, holding her small hand, feeling her warmth and innocence, while the nightmare of Mark's betrayal loomed over us like a dark cloud. Mark was caught right at home by the police. When they asked him why he had the camera at first, there was a flicker of shame in his eyes, but soon his guard dropped, and his face shifted, part anger, part confusion, with a hint of hidden fear. It was just curiosity, Mark stammered, but his voice carried no conviction. The officers explained firmly that this could be considered a crime and could land him in serious trouble. Inside, my anger boiled. How could my husband's best friend betray our trust so completely? I held Lily in my arms, gripping her tiny hands tightly. Watching her innocence and faith in the world, my heart ached even more. The officer asked us to sit in a separate room while Mark was taken for questioning. As I sat there, my mind kept replaying the last week. Lily had mentioned someone at school was following her, a man she vaguely knew, but I had dismissed it as nothing serious. Now every tiny detail made sense, and my anger and protective instincts doubled. At the police station, Mark was being questioned aggressively. Every answer he gave seemed contradictory. At one moment, he looked innocent. The next, scheming and manipulative. The officers confiscated his phone and laptop. I studied every subtle twitch on his face, realizing that this man had moved far beyond simple curiosity. He had become dangerously obsessive. Back home, Daniel finally confronted the truth. I didn't know he'd go this far, he admitted. But words weren't enough. "You didn't know? He's been around our daughter, spying on her." I practically screamed. Daniel's guilt and helplessness were clear, but for me, only one thing mattered: Lily's safety, and making sure this predator faced consequences. The police informed me that they would check Mark's past history. If there were previous incidents, the case would become much stronger. But my mind kept circling back to a terrifying thought. What if Mark was a threat to other children as well? For me, this wasn't just a fight. It was a war for my daughter's innocence and future. That night, after putting Lily to bed, I sat by the window, thinking about how someone I had trusted as my husband's best friend could become so dangerous. My anger and fear mixed into a tight knot in my chest. The next morning, the police called, wanting to take me to Lily's school and neighborhood to verify that no other suspicious activity had occurred. It was then I realized Mark's plan hadn't been just about spying. He had been setting a trap, one that, if I hadn't been alert, could have put my entire family in permanent danger. Holding Lily close, I knew this fight had grown beyond legal issues. It had become an emotional and mental battle as well. The next morning, the police arrived at our house bright and early. They wanted to take me and Lily to the school and check every area where Mark might have been lurking. As I buckled Lily into her little car seat, I noticed how oblivious she was to the storm swirling around her. Her innocent smile made my heart ache and strengthened my resolve nothing would harm her under my watch. At school, officers walked through hallways and playgrounds, questioning teachers and students discreetly. I stayed close to Lily, keeping her calm and distracted with silly stories about princesses and magic. But inside, I was furious. How could someone we had trusted so easily, someone who laughed at family dinners and shared jokes with us, turn into such a dangerous predator? As we returned home, the lead detective pulled me aside. "We found disturbing messages on Mark's phone," he said, sliding a printed document across the table. My hands trembled as I picked it up. These weren't just random notes. They were detailed plans tracking routes, lists of places he had visited, and observations about Lily. Each line made my stomach churn, and I felt bile rise in my throat. Daniel finally admitted the truth. He told me he only meant to, but I didn't think he'd actually do it. He muttered, shame written all over his face. I could barely look at him. Didn't think? You knew he had access to our daughter and you didn't stop him? My voice cracked and Lily clutched my leg, sensing my anger. The detective continued. Mark has a history we're still investigating. He's been arrested before for stalking behavior, but nothing violent. This time we may have enough evidence to press serious charges. My relief was tempered by fear. The thought that he had gone this far before without anyone stopping him made my blood run cold. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house, every shadow in the hallway made me jump. I checked on Lily repeatedly, making sure she was safe. Daniel tried to apologize, but I barely heard him. My mind was racing with ways to protect our daughter, ways to ensure that Mark could never harm her or anyone else again. In the days that followed, the investigation intensified. Officers returned frequently, gathering more evidence from Mark's home and online activity. Each discovery was more shocking than the last: photos, videos, and messages that revealed just how meticulously he had planned to invade our lives. My anger boiled, but it also steeled my resolve. This man would face justice, no matter how long it took. But amidst all the chaos, Lily remained blissfully unaware. Her laughter, her hugs, her innocent questions kept me grounded. I realized that this battle wasn't just about punishment. It was about preserving her childhood, her sense of safety, and teaching her that even in the face of danger, we fight for what's right. A week later, Mark's arrest made headlines in our small town. Neighbors whispered as they passed our house, glancing nervously at the police tape still wrapped around his apartment. Some shook their heads, muttering how they never would have suspected him. But I knew the truth. He had worn a mask for years, charming everyone while planning the unthinkable. The detective called me one afternoon with new information. We found something more, he said gravely. Mark had been following your family for months. He documented everything, your routines, school drop-offs, even grocery trips. He had multiple cameras set up around his apartment. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. The thought of him spying on my daughter while we lived our lives made my skin crawl. Daniel finally faced his own reckoning. I didn't know how to stop him, he confessed tearfully. But I couldn't bring myself to pity him. He had chosen silence over action, and that silence nearly cost us Lily's safety. I realized that from now on, I could rely on no one but myself to protect my child. At school, things weren't better. Parents grew anxious, teachers were cautious, and Lily noticed the tension. One day, as we walked past the playground, she tugged at my hand and asked, "Mommy, why do people whisper when they see us?" I knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Some people are learning a lesson, sweetie. But you, my love, are safe because I will always fight for you." Her big eyes nodded, trusting every word. Mark's trial began, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. The prosecutor detailed the months of stalking, the sinister messages, and the creepy surveillance. Each piece painted a picture of a man obsessed, dangerous, and unrelenting. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, friends, and even Lily's school principal were there to testify about Mark's strange behavior. Then came the hardest moment. The defense tried to twist the story, claiming Lily had invited attention, that she somehow made Mark act this way. My blood boiled. I stood up, voice steady but sharp, and told the court the truth. My daughter is innocent. She's 7 years old, and you dare blame her for this man's crimes? The room fell silent. Even the judge looked shocked. During recess one day, Lily approached me with a notebook. "Mommy, I drew this for you," she said, holding up a picture of our family together, smiling, safe. Tears blurred my vision as I hugged her tight. In the middle of all this chaos, her innocence and love reminded me why I fought so hard. She deserved to grow up without fear, without shadows lurking at the corners of her life. That night, I installed security cameras around our house, changed locks, and even set up alerts for anyone entering our driveway. The paranoia was real, but so was my determination. No one, not even someone like Mark, would ever threaten my family again. Mark's trial was a circus, with media swarming the courthouse and neighbors, whispering theories on every street corner. Every time I looked at Lily, I felt a surge of both fear and fierce protectiveness. The defense was relentless, trying to twist facts, questioning our credibility, and painting Mark as misunderstood. But the truth was stronger, and I refused to let lies overshadow Lily's safety. The prosecutor unveiled Mark's journal, filled with chilling entries. He had written about stalking our family, meticulously planning each move, obsessing over Lily, and even imagining scenarios where he could control us. The courtroom shuddered as pages were read aloud, each one more disturbing than the last. Mark sat there, expression blank, as if he had rehearsed this performance for years. Daniel and I testified, recounting the moments we had ignored signs or dismissed instincts. Daniel's voice cracked as he admitted, "I should have listened. I failed you both." I could see the weight of guilt in his eyes, but my focus remained on Lily. She sat quietly beside me, clutching my hand, her little fingers trembling slightly. Despite her fear, I saw courage in her eyes, a silent determination that mirrored my own. The defense called their first witness, a supposed friend of Mark's, who claimed he was harmless, just misunderstood. But their statements fell flat when confronted with evidence, emails, screenshots and video clips of Mark following Lily's school bus, lurking near playgrounds and attempting to contact neighbors under false names. The jury's expressions shifted, disbelief and horror painted on every face. Outside the courthouse, reporters hounded us, asking questions I refused to answer. I wanted privacy for Lily, to shield her from the glare of cameras and the sensationalism of her trauma. "She's a child," I said firmly. "Please leave her out of this." Some nodded, others smirked, trying to capture the perfect headline. But I didn't care about headlines. I cared about her life, her innocence, and the chance to rebuild our sense of safety. One evening, after another grueling day in court, I tucked Lily into bed. She looked up at me, sleepy eyes heavy with trust and fatigue. "Mommy, will he ever come back?" she whispered. My heart clenched, and I held her tight. "No, sweetie. He won't. You're safe now. I promise." Her small arms wrapped around me, and I felt a surge of strength, knowing that no matter how dark the storm had been, we were emerging stronger together. At home, I found myself pacing, unable to rest while Mark's shadow loomed over us. Daniel tried to comfort me, but I couldn't shake the paranoia. Every knock at the door, every unfamiliar car, made my pulse spike. Yet with each passing day, I also felt resolve solidifying within me. I had survived this nightmare, and I would continue to fight, not just for justice, but to ensure that Lily's life could blossom without fear or threat. The day of the verdict arrived, and the courthouse was packed. Media cameras lined the hallways, reporters whispering and shuffling papers while the jury filed in, each member carrying the weight of the evidence and the responsibility to decide Mark's fate. I held Lily's hand tightly, feeling the tension radiate through her small fingers, a mix of fear and hope. Daniel stood beside us, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the jury box, silently praying for justice. The judge called the court to order, and the foreman stood to read the decision. My stomach churned, a whirlwind of anxiety, as every eye in the courtroom turned toward us. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional shuffle of papers or the squeak of shoes against polished floors. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty on all charges," the foreman announced, voice steady yet final. My knees nearly buckled with relief. I clutched Lily to me, tears streaming down both our faces. Daniel exhaled a deep, trembling sigh of release. Mark's reaction was eerily calm, almost detached, but the guards quickly moved him away, leaving only the echo of the word guilty lingering in the room. The weight of months of fear, sleepless nights, and endless court battles began to lift, replaced by a fragile, cautious sense of safety. Lily leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, and whispered, "Mommy, it's over?" I kissed her hair, holding her close. "Yes, baby, it's over. You're safe now." Returning home felt surreal. Our front door, once a source of anxiety, now symbolized sanctuary. I held Lily's hand tightly as we walked through the familiar rooms, every corner a reminder of the days spent in fear. Daniel set up cameras outside, installed locks, and ensured our home was secure. But the real protection came from knowing that the law was finally on our side. For the first time in months, I felt a cautious optimism creeping into my heart. The following weeks were a blur of therapy sessions, police follow-ups, and rebuilding trust. Lily's laughter began to return in small bursts, echoing through the rooms like fragile music. She painted, danced, and even started telling stories about her days at school again. Daniel and I watched, amazed at her resilience. Every step forward, no matter how small, was a victory, a testament to her courage and our unwavering support. I also took time to reflect on my own journey. I had discovered strength I never knew I possessed, navigating the complex web of trauma, legal battles, and parental protection. I had fought not just for justice, but for the restoration of normalcy in Lily's life. Each day became an opportunity to teach her resilience, to instill confidence, and to remind her that even in the darkest moments, love and determination could guide us through. One evening, I tucked Lily into bed, her face glowing with tired but genuine happiness. "Mommy, I think I'm brave now," she said softly, eyes sparkling. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, life began to feel lighter. Sunlight streamed through our windows in a way it hadn't before, and even the smallest routines, making breakfast, walking to school, bedtime stories, were now precious reminders of safety and normalcy. Lily's laughter, once stifled by fear, became a steady, joyful presence in the house. Daniel and I would exchange quiet smiles across rooms, a silent acknowledgement of how far we'd come. But even in this calm, I knew we couldn't let our guard down. Therapy sessions continued, not just for Lily, but for all of us, helping to untangle the residual threads of fear, anger, and mistrust. Each breakthrough was celebrated, a smile, a confident answer, a moment of courage that would have been impossible just months ago. We learned to recognize the signs of anxiety, to offer comfort, and to let Lily express herself fully without judgment or fear. One sunny afternoon, I found myself in the backyard with Lily and Daniel, painting a mural on the fence. Color splashed across the wood, chaotic yet beautiful, a reflection of the chaos we had endured and the hope we were rebuilding. Lily held the brush with a serious expression, carefully tracing patterns she had imagined. "Mommy, this is our safe place," she said softly. I knelt beside her, my heart swelling. "Yes, baby. This is our safe place, and nothing can take it away." Daniel joined us, adding bold strokes of blue and red, his laughter blending with ours. For the first time in months, the world felt whole again, not perfect, but ours. The bond between the three of us had strengthened in ways I couldn't have imagined. The trauma we endured became a shared memory, a reminder of our resilience rather than a shadow over our lives. Even at night, when the world outside seemed vast and unpredictable, Lily no longer flinched at every creak or shadow. She slept soundly, dreaming of playgrounds, friends, and adventures, not fear. I would watch her, marveling at her courage and the strength she carried within her small frame. Daniel's hand on my shoulder reminded me that we were a team, a family forged not just by love, but by the trials we had survived together. Months later, I sat with Lily at her school's art show, watching her proudly present the mural she had finished at home. Parents and teachers applauded, and I caught Daniel's eye, both of us silently celebrating the victory that wasn't just about justice, it was about reclaiming life. Lily turned to me with a huge smile. "Mommy, we did it!" she exclaimed. I hugged her tightly. "Yes, baby, we did it. And we'll keep doing it every day." That night, as I tucked her in, I whispered, "You're stronger than anyone knows. Lily, always remember that." She smiled, her eyes shining with trust and love. And as I turned off the light, I felt a profound sense of peace. The nightmare had ended, but it had left us with something even greater. Please like and subscribe, please.